Which of the Sharks' free agents have lived up to expectations and which have left you wanting a little bit more? We rank them.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making the Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be taking an early look at the Sharks free agency class and which players have kind of lived up to expectations, which ones leave you a little bit wanting, and just, kind of how everybody's panning out to start. So we're going to be starting with the disappointment guys and then kind of working our way up to who I think is the best free agent move of the summer. So we'll be looking at players who the Sharks either acquired through trades, signed, picked up off of waivers, all those players that have moves that happened during the summer. Vincent Iorio, who the Sharks acquired during the season here, he's not counted because he wasn't really part of the plan, so to say. So, but before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So one also asterisks and stuff. I am off the grid Monday, Tuesday, and the majority of Wednesday. I'll be back for the actual game Wednesday night, so I'm recording this before Sunday's game. So if somebody has a hat trick, or if Nedeljkovic poops his pants against the Red Wings or whatever, none of Sunday's stats are counted towards this, unfortunately, just because, again, I had to kind of record ahead of time so that way you guys would have content. Monday there'll be the Red Wings breakdown. This episode will be is Tuesday's episode, and then Wednesday's episode will be Wednesday night after the Sharks game there, because again, off the grid, literally off the grid for a couple days here. So, but let's start with the player who I think has been the most disappointing for the San Jose Sharks to start this season. I think it's pretty easy. It's Nick Leddy here. So Leddy, who the Sharks acquired off of waivers from the St. Louis Blues, is in the final year of his contract worth $4 million. He's played 7 games, has 0 goals, 2 assists with 1 shot on goal. His average time on ice is playing 17-12 a night. Corsi for, so when Leddy is on the ice, the Sharks are taking 37.57% of the shot attempts. When Nick Leddy is on the ice, this is at 5-on-5. The Sharks are scoring 27.27 of the goals for. Nick Leddy has not had a good start to his San Jose Sharks tenure, and is a player. It's no coincidence, I think, that once Leddy got hurt and has been out of the lineup, the Sharks defense has looked much better so far. I think the structure has been there much better. I think just the personnel on the ice has been better. And Leddy, who, again, the Sharks acquired via waivers because the St. Louis Blues they wanted to try to trade him to the Sharks. He had a no trade clause, so they put him on waivers, and the Sharks were able to acquire him that way. This is the guy who I think it's fair to say probably doesn't want to be here, right? And yes, he's a professional. He's going to do, still continue to try and stuff. But it has been a very disappointing start for a guy who, again, last year dealt with a lot of injuries and wasn't himself at the end of the year, coming back from those injuries. He's been, well, at least he was healthy coming into camp, right? And I know he's dealing with a shoulder injury from a check, happened the other night, but just looks late on some of his decisions, just kind of looks passive, hasn't really kind of been, it feels like engaged with kind of the task at hand. And, this is the gamble when you acquire players this way. Some players see it as a fresh start, especially younger players. Some players see it as a punishment. And I think Leddy probably feels like this is a punishment to come from a Blues team, which was good last year. And the Blues have been off to a horrible start to start this season. But, he, again, like it looks like he doesn't want to be here. And it's not, has not been a good start, and there's still plenty of time. But you do wonder if there might be a mutual decision to try to kind of separate ways and just be like, this isn't working out for either party here. So anyway, but the next most disappointing player would have to be John Klingberg. So Klingberg, who signed a 1-year deal worth $4 million, he has a no move clause until the end of January, and then it opens up where basically he can kind of still pick his team if he wants to get traded at the trade deadline. Klingberg scored, he's played 6 games, he scored a goal, has 2 assists with 11 shots on goal, playing 21-22 a night. Corsi for, so when he is on the ice, the Sharks are taking 34.04% of the shot attempts. Goals for, 38.46% of the goals scored when Klingberg is on the ice. So Klingberg dealt with some injuries. I know he had a concussion in preseason, and then I think he had a little bit of a kind of a setback from that after playing at the beginning of the season. Has gotten back and has been given the kind of the reins to the first power play unit. And with Klingberg, like, with John Klingberg, like what you're getting, right? He is an offensively driven defenseman who's going to help you try to create more offense. And you're going to have question marks in the defensive zone. The problem is we've had the question marks in the defensive zone, and he hasn't really kind of gelled with the offense yet, especially on the power play. With Klingberg out, Orlov was kind of given the reins to the power play, and it felt like a more natural fit, especially with the pieces that the Sharks have, where, you have Toffoli and you have Smith and you have Celebrini and you have Eklund, all 4 guys who have played together a lot and really kind of built up this chemistry over the past year. And Orlov was more of a kind of a point guard or distributor. With Klingberg, it kind of feels like he's more of trying to insert himself a little bit too much with it, and not, his job should be more of just get the puck moving instead of just like keep shooting. And I think that part, as well with some of the issues in the defensive zone, right? You think back to the Anaheim game, right? Just like his inability to tie up players in those situations, and that led to 2 goals. And what a game that you lost 7-6 in overtime, a game that you scored 6 goals and you still lost this game because your inability to just tie up a 19-year-old kid in Beckett Sennecke, like that, stuff like that, right? And he had a couple giveaways against the Avalanche that luckily Askarov was able to kind of bail him out in these situations. But the Klingberg experience, I think, has definitely gotten off to a rocky start. And that's not to say like Klingberg can't kind of get back into it. And, a guy like Klingberg who's, said he's healthy and wants to kind of use this opportunity to springboard. You wonder if maybe he's trying a little bit too hard, especially in the offensive zone, to try to kind of pump up some numbers here, and not letting them kind of come naturally. So hopefully he can kind of get into the groove of things here, because I still think Klingberg can be a big time addition, especially on the power play. But so far it's just been a little bit rocky to kind of start. And when you're not kind of driving the offense that we expect you to, and plus your defensive numbers are bad, that's where like if you're at least driving offense, you can point to that, like the old Erik Karlsson thing, right? Yeah, Erik Karlsson's defense wasn't the greatest, but look what Erik Karlsson could do in the offensive zone. Klingberg, it's you're supposed to be driving offense, and it looks like you're kind of trying to take over the offense instead of driving the offense and letting these other guys kind of, especially guys like Celebrini and Smith and Toffoli and Macklin, let them kind of do their thing. And it feels like you're trying to kind of take over. I think there needs to be a little bit, him just kind of taking a little bit of a step back and let the offense come to him. So we're going to look at a bunch of forwards here who have, kind of all made some impact here in one way or another. Plus, we'll look at Nedeljkovic as well. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what we're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. So I say you start using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It's great because you can organize all your accounts, track your spending, get a better handle on your investments without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. Monarch's visual database and smart tools make it easy to understand where your money's going and how to make it work harder. It's like your own personal Puckpedia. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, before we continue, do of course want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. So the next player, a player I was very not super happy with when the Sharks acquired him, but I will admit has been a pleasant surprise. That would be one Ryan Reaves. So Reaves was traded for this offseason. He has won in the last year of his deal at $1.35 million. He's played 10 games, has 2 goals, 0 assists with 6 shots on goal while playing 6:43 a night. Yes, 6 minutes and 43 seconds. Corsi for 39.05%. So when he's on the ice, the Sharks are taking 39% of the shots. Goals for 28.57%. So when he's on the ice, the Sharks are scoring 28%, 29% of the goals that are scored. So Reaves is you knew exactly what Reaves is going to be. I think he's lived up to the expectations so far, right? He's he's shown some toughness. He's gotten to a couple of fights here. He's scored more goals than I think any of us expected to start the season. But when he is on the ice, the Sharks have also not done well, right? When you give up that many shot attempts, when you give up that many goals for. And, so I think it's with Reaves, it's very much the picking your spots with him because he has shown to make some impact plays here. But I think the usage, which is a big question of is it worth playing a guy less than 7 minutes a night for him to, unfortunately for the Sharks to kind of get caved in while he's playing. But, he has, like I said, he has had some big moments. He's had some, he had a couple fights and has, kind of added some of that toughness, and that fourth line in general has been pretty solid to start the season. So, again, it's not, like I said, I think Reaves has done better than what I've expected, but those underlying numbers are also not pretty. Right. And again, for a team, most the Sharks do get outshot most nights and do give up more goals than they typically score. But it's just when you're playing that amount of minutes, again, under 7 minutes, and then your numbers are that bad as well. It's not a great combination. So, but again, he does fight some people. So the next guy on the list here is one Adam Gaudette. And these next groups here is really hard to kind of figure out who is stacked up with who. But Gaudette, who's been playing bottom 6 minutes, he's signed a 2-year deal worth $2 million, has played 9 games. He's currently injured right now, but does have 3 goals, 1 assist with 12 shots on goal. playing 10.42 a night. Corsi 4, so when he is on the ice, the Sharks are taking 42% of the shots, and when he's on the ice, the Sharks have scored 40% of the goals. Gaudette is a player who's, I think, also kind of lived up to expectations, and he's a player I think we kind of want to see a little bit more of, right? Because I think you have seen some really positive things from him. His ability to score. I think his addition on the PK has also been a nice kind of rotation piece there. He's had some, like I said, he's had some big time goals for San Jose, and what you're paying him at $2 million, like that's a feels like a very fair contract, and a guy who could potentially get you double-digit goals on a contract for $2 million. Like that is a guy who, again, like scored 19 goals last year. But I think he's been very effective in his minutes, but you hope to see his minutes kind of grow a little bit here. But the problem is, where are you taking those minutes from, right? Because another forward that we're going to talk about later is playing a bunch more minutes, has been very effective in those. You expect Misa to start hopefully getting some more minutes here as well soon. Like, you're not taking minutes from Celebrini, you're not taking minutes from Smith. Like, it's very much like you're trying to figure out where to kind of grab a couple more minutes for Gaudette. But I think he's really filled that role, and he's really helped to kind of prop up this bottom six, which has been kind of dreadful the past couple of years. And when Gaudette's out there on the middle six, he's been a very effective player, and especially like on that third line playing with Colin Graff, like he's been a really good really good addition there. So I think when he gets back and he can kind of, get back into that position playing on the third line, I think he's going to be in a good spot. So, the next guy, another forward here, that would be Jeff Skinner. So Skinner's played 11 games. He signed a 1-year deal worth $3 million. His 3 goals, 2 assists, 23 shots on goal, playing 13-15 a night. Corsi for 47.41, goals for 33.33%. So Skinner started out with an absolute bang, and has kind of been a little bit quieter here, but you're seeing like he's doing a lot of positive things. And as with all goal scorers, right, there can be a bit streaky. And you do wonder if Skinner's about ready to explode and kind of score like 2 and 3 games or 3 and 5 and kind of get that goal production, because he's had some really great opportunities and just hasn't been able to kind of finish them off here. So, but Skinner, I think, is kind of lived up to expectations. I was a little surprised with the minutes played there, because I do think that he's been he's been effective when he's been out there, but I guess like I kind of thought he was up at closer in the 15-16 minute range, but playing on the third line as of late, like he's only playing 13 minutes a night, and especially for a guy who doesn't play on the PK and he's on the second unit of the power play, like it kind of made more sense. But I do think so far, like, so good with Skinner and kind of where he's at, but you kind of feel like he's a player that maybe you can get a little bit more out of here, especially if you can. Another guy where maybe if you get him closer to like 15 minutes, but again, where are you taking those minutes from? Because I think he's been he's very much, especially at this age, kind of a specialized player, right? Where you need to put him in a good position to succeed and give him a talented center to play with. And hopefully he can start to get some more production for the Sharks here. So we are going to finish up here in a minute by looking at so we have Orlov, we have Kurashev, and we have Nedeljkovic. So we're going to look at how these guys have kind of stacking up here in the Sharks free agency class and which ones have had the most impact. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you could even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And if you want to get tickets to catch an NHL game, because there's nothing better than being in the arena for hockey games, but we know getting tickets can be a real pain sometimes between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in. The app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL deals fast, easy, and stress-free. We use Game Time whenever we go up to San Jose to get Sharks tickets. I know we're going up in December for as a holiday tradition. We always go catch a Sharks game right around Christmas time. Use FanDuel, got great tickets. Of course, with their zone deals, you can pick a section, and Game Time will pick you the seats to help save you big. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Let's go to LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, let's finish up here by starting with the goalie, Alex Nedeljkovic, who the Sharks traded a third-round pick to the Pittsburgh Penguins to acquire. I think he's been the third most impactful player for the San Jose Sharks to start this out of this free agency class. 1 year left on his deal at $2.5 million. He's played 5 games. The goals against average is not the prettiest at 3.60. And again, this is before his start against the Red Wings. So if he has a shutout or if he gives up 7, I'm sorry. Save percentage at 887, goals allowed 15, expected goals allowed, goals allowed 18, expected goals allowed 1507. So his goals saved above expected is minus 2.9 with an 833 high danger save percentage. I think, yes, he's had some moments playing the puck, and you look at the Vegas game, right, and he just lost his mind for 5 minutes there. But I think overall Nedeljkovic has played pretty solidly behind a defensive group that's especially trying to kind of figure things out. And over the past couple of games here, again, pre-Detroit, where I feel like the defense is starting to kind of figure things out and starting to kind of gel a little bit. I think Nedeljkovic has also started to play some solid hockey here as well. And this may be also kind of projecting a little bit, but I think Nedeljkovic is going to continue to play well and kind of continue to get better for the Sharks here as the season goes on. So, and he's been a player where if the season goes well, or at least, the first part of the season goes well, he's a player I'm very much advocating for the Sharks to try to re-sign before the trade deadline or before you get to free agency, because one, I don't want to play the merry-go-round of goaltending, especially kind of taking a peek at next year's goaltending free agency class. It's not super great. And two, he's still, he's only 29. He turns 30 this year. Like, he's a player where you can, see him being here for a couple years, and I think can be a really nice asset for a guy like Askarov, as Askarov kind of goes through his ups and downs. Nedeljkovic, who's basically kind of been there, done that with it, right? A guy who was in the Calder conversation as a rookie, a guy now has been traded multiple times. Like, this is a player who, has been through the ups and downs. I think could be a really good kind of, shoulder to lean on for Askarov, and also play well, which is, I think, just as important. So, I think Nedeljkovic is really kind of hopefully starting to kind of figure things out here. And especially, again, as the defense starts to kind of clamp down a little bit and starts to gel a little bit more. So next would be one Philipp Kurashev. So Kurashev, who signed a 1-year deal at $1.2 million. He's played 10 games, has 5 goals, 3 assists with 22 shots on goal, playing 18.06 a night. Corsi force, when he's on the ice, 44.24% of the shots. But when the goals for when Kurashev is on the ice, the Sharks have scored 62.5% of the goals. This Kurashev, Wennberg, Macklin line has been an outstanding find by the San Jose Sharks here, where I think all their skill sets can kind of come together. And we see Kurashev, with his speed and his goal scoring ability, working with, Wennberg, who's so defensively responsible, and Eklund, who can kind of do everything and kind of is such a creative player. Like Kurashev has really benefited from kind of finding a spot with these guys. And Kurashev, who, there's some questions like, what is his role? Where is he going to fit in with the Sharks? And, especially with all the additions that they made this offseason with the young players coming. And can he get back to the guy he was 2 years ago? Well, so far so good with him. And, I know a lot of it's kind of spurred over the last couple of weeks, but, like Kurashev is looking more and more like the, 50-point player that he was with the Blackhawks 2 years ago than the, team. I think he had like 14 or 15 points last year, and what was an injury-plagued season. So, and again, like he's not playing, he's getting a little like PK, he's getting some PK time, getting some power play 2 time, but he's not getting like prime opportunities. It's a lot of it's, having to play against top opposition, as the Wennberg line usually gets matched up with, some of the other best lines, and they're still producing, and he's a big part of being able to produce. So we'll see how long he can kind of continue to keep this streak up. But it's been a great start for him, especially after kind of the preseason where he was kind of wandering around. They were playing, he's starting with Celebrini and Smith. It didn't really work out, but he's really found a home playing with Wennberg and with Eklund. And, I think maybe potentially just being partnered up with Wennberg for the foreseeable future might not be the worst thing for Kurashev here. So, and finally, I think it's pretty easy. Dmitry Orlov has been an absolute beast for the San Jose Sharks, signing a 2-year deal at $6.5 million. He has 12 games. He has 9 assists with 18 shots on goal, playing over 23 minutes a night. Corsi for 49.14% is one of the highest on the San Jose Sharks. Goals for 56.25%. I think Orlov, right? I mean, it's a question I asked multiple times this offseason. Can Dmitry Orlov be the guy for the San Jose Sharks on the blue line? And so far, so good for Orlov. I think the preseason and kind of very much early in the season was still trying to kind of figure out kind of the Sharks system and where he fits and all that stuff. But ever since then, like he's just been stringing together some really great hockey. Like that Avs game had some really great kind of stick checks to, like thwart some opportunities, especially on the penalty kill, where it's just kind of like last minute gets a stick out there to stop a play. You think too, like, it's just some of the physical games that he's had as well. Like Orlov has been, and yes, he got the biggest contract, right? The $6.5 million a season. But he's doing what you expected him to do as kind of being that guy who's getting that type of money, kind of taking on that responsibility. He's the guy who's really been, I think one of the big reasons why the Sharks defense is starting to kind of figure things out because of Orlov's play, right? And, it's funny where two of the defensive additions have been disappointing in Leddy and Klingberg, and Orlov, I think it's fair to say, has exceeded expectations, right? And he's still producing. It doesn't even feel like Orlov's doing much offensively, but he's still producing offensively. And I think that's a sign of things that might be, like we might potentially get like an Orlov hot streak here where if he kind of continues to jump into the offensive rush a little bit more and is able to, like kind of hit like a nice, 7 points in 3 games, or 7 points, like 4 or 5 games situation here. So, but yeah, Orlov, I think has easily been the best Sharks free agency acquisition this offseason, and looks like he could, kind of help bridge this defensive group as they're, getting pieces like Dickinson and hopefully Cagnoni and some of these other guys, and Muka Madulin up to speed here. Like, I think Orlov looks like he might be a really nice signing by Mike Grier. So, but that's going to be it for me today. Like I said, if there's any news or anything like that, we'll get to it as soon as I get back. But off the grid here for a couple of days. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts, and of course you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until Wednesday, bye, friends.